Have you noticed? The emperor hasn't been very happy lately. During the morning greeting at Sinang Palace, when the concubines came to pay their respects, the Empress Dowager spoke slowly. After speaking, she deliberately glanced around at the beautiful women below her, first nodding in satisfaction. Now that the young emperor was at his peak, the harem was full. Under the empress, there was a noble consort. Below her were the 4 consorts, and below them were several concubines, attendants, and court ladies. With such a complete roster, she no longer had to worry about lacking players for mahjong. Clearing her throat, she continued, "Does anyone know why?" The women looked at each other and shook their heads in unison. The Empress Dowager frowned. "It's not that I'm criticizing you, but as the emperor's companions, besides not spreading gossip, meddling in politics, or overly currying favor, can't you show more concern for the emperor?" Everyone looked down, feeling guilty. Knowing she couldn't blame everyone at once, the Empress Dowager began calling names. "Noble consort Shi, in the absence of the empress, you are the leader. Can you analyze why the emperor is unhappy?" Caught off guard, noble consort, she quickly stood up. With her round face and big innocent eyes blinking rapidly, she blushed before even speaking. I. Never mind, I'll ask a different question, the Empress Dowager said kindly. What was the Empress's 4th sentence after noon the day before yesterday? Noble consort, she blushed even more, clearly excited this time. Without hesitation, she answered, "It was Meng Meng, stand up." You probably don't know, Empress Dowager, but Meng Meng is a new dog raised by the Empress, a gift from the Siberian kingdom, also known as a husky, nicknamed Era. The Empress Dowager wiped her face. "All right, I get it. Please control your flying saliva. I appreciate your love for the Empress. If you could spare some of that love for the Emperor, I'd be grateful." Noble consort, she whispered in defense. "How can it be the same? The Empress is my idol. The Emperor is just an emperor." The Empress Dowager pretended not to hear. She then turned her stern gaze to the head of the 4 consorts, Consort Da. Anticipating she would be called, Consort Da stood up. Instantly, her presence filled the room. Her high hair bun and red lips dazzled everyone. If the space allowed, she could drag her embroidered phoenix and floral-patterned wide sleeves around the room. But facing the Emperor's mother, she simply stood tall and said, "I don't know." The Empress Dowager said, "Why are you even standing here then?" Consort Da shrugged. "I haven't been favored by the Emperor for half a month, so I really don't know what he's thinking." The Empress Dowager continued, "Then, who was the last person to spend the night with the Emperor?" Everyone exchanged looks. Seeing most eyes on herself, Consort Xian reluctantly raised her hand. "Not me. I haven't seen the Emperor in a month. He asked me to find out if there are any kidney tonics in the western regions and get more for him." The Empress Dowager and everyone else were puzzled. Consort Xian quickly added, to give as gifts, the Emperor said. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. "Oh." After a moment of silence, the Empress Dowager asked, "Did the Emperor say who he wanted to gift them to?" Everyone quietly perked up their ears. Consort Xian awkwardly smiled, thinking, in a palace full of leaking walls, being a micro-business is tough. Keeping client confidentiality is my basic principle, all right? At this moment, Liang Fei suddenly let out a cold laugh. De Fei raised an eyebrow. "Liang Fei, do you have some brilliant insight? Did the Emperor perhaps go to your palace to stick pins in dolls?" Liang Fei, with her naturally small frame and a penchant for a sickly aesthetic, always carried a doll. Dressed in pure white palace attire, she could easily star in a ghost story with a bit of smoke. Before entering the palace, she was a famous talent in the capital. They say talented people are often proud. Liang Fei was not just proud, she was purely arrogant. Let me reiterate, this is a figurine. Please don't insult art with the crude term, stick pins in dolls. And ever since I gave the Emperor a zombie version of a figurine, he's been avoiding me for 6 months. I have no other intentions, just that you all seem naturally fit only to be consorts. Shouldn't you know who understands the Emperor best in this entire palace? Noble consort, she blinked, no idea. Defei said, seriously, Liang Fei, don't forget you're a consort too. Do I need to remind you with my sword, or do you want to float away again? Believe me, I can make you cool in minutes. The Empress Dowager stopped Defei, who was on the verge of switching to her hometown dialect. As the only one still thinking clearly, she sincerely asked, Liang Fei, who is the person who understands the Emperor best? The room fell silent, and everyone held their breath. Liang Fei said coolly, how would I know? Just offering a suggestion for your consideration. Hey, Empress Dowager, don't get agitated, watch your delicate heart. Defei quickly interjected as the Empress Dowager looked ready to explode. Talented people are always a bit off. As the esteemed elder, please be lenient with the young ones. If Liang Fei gets cool, no one will write our spring festival couplets. At least keep her for the new year. The Empress Dowager barely calmed down, clutching her chest. At times like this, I really miss the Empress. I'd rather she forced me to wake up early for an hour of exercise than deal with you lot. By the way, where is the Empress? Noble consort, she timidly said, Empress Dowager, you forgot. Yesterday, the Empress made you wake up early for exercise, and in your anger, you punished her to reflect in Cunning Palace, exempting her from morning greetings. I forgot about that. All right, I've decided to be an Empress Dowager who goes back on her word. Someone, prepare the carriage to Cunning Palace for exercise. The concubines followed the Empress Dowager to Cunning Palace, where the palace maid Xiaotsue pointed towards the western warm room. Empress Dowager, please do something. Our Empress has gone crazy again. The Empress Dowager took a defensive step back. Is she practicing martial arts again? It's scarier than martial arts. For the past couple of days, she hasn't been acting human. She laid a long mat on the ground and has been striking all sorts of inhuman poses. It's very embarrassing. The Empress Dowager rushed into the western warm room and, sure enough, saw the Empress twisted like a pretzel on the floor. The Empress Dowager tried to look as kind and gentle as possible. Child, what are you doing? I've reflected and realized it was wrong of me to oppose you leading the harem in morning exercises. But don't forget, we are a loving and harmonious family. If you have any thoughts, just speak up boldly. I pardon you. There's no need to torture yourself. Mainly because if you hurt yourself, finding a replacement for the Empress's difficult position would not be easy. The Empress was taken aback. She straightened her clothes and stood up. Mother, what are you talking about? This is a new exercise from the West called yoga. It's especially suitable for women like us. It strengthens the body and improves grace. I've tried it for 2 days and found it quite effective. I plan to promote it in the harem. Mother, would you like to give it a try? The Empress Dowager decisively refused. No, thank you. I still want to keep my old bones to play mahjong for a few more years. Oh. As expected, the Empress wasn't disappointed. She looked at the concubines behind the Empress Dowager and thought it was rare to see them all gathered. The last time they were all here was when she forced them to accompany the Empress Dowager and Empress Mother to dance in the square. They came to her to decide between dancing to Little Orange or the most dazzling Great Way style, causing quite a commotion. The Empress's heart tightened. She cautiously scrutinized everyone and asked warily, "What's going on? Did Shufei bring Kitty to the meeting, or did Xianfei waste public time selling face masks again? Defei, are you dressed so flamboyantly for a beauty pageant? Liang Fei, are you in mourning with such plain clothes?" Having been in her position for many years, the Empress was adept at managing the harem. She began glaring at the concubines while supporting the Empress Dowager. "Mother, don't get angry. Take care of your delicate heart." Yes, cover it well. Xiaotsue, hurry and help the Empress Dowager to her seat and serve tea. These girls are so troublesome. Their mistakes are my failure. I'll punish them by making them run laps. Why are you still standing there? Run. Shufei, don't give me those beautiful phoenix eyes. Do you think it's okay to bring pets to a meeting? I've told you so many times. You can keep a cat, but don't bring it out. The Empress Dowager sipped her tea, quietly watching the Empress's performance. After a while, she sighed. Seeing the Empress Dowager frown, the Empress knew things weren't that simple. She immediately stopped her lecture, quickly knelt in front of her, and targeted one of her thighs. As she prepared silently, the Empress Dowager said, "This time, it's not about them. It's about the Emperor." The Empress stood up, relieved. "Oh, you scared me. I thought something serious had happened." The Empress Dowager asked, "Do you know which palace the Emperor has been spending the night in recently?" The Empress nodded, "With me." "Everyone, EU." Seeing she had found the right lead, the Empress Dowager continued, "Do you know why the Emperor has been unhappy lately?" The Empress. "The Emperor is unhappy? Is he?" She looked at the others, who also appeared puzzled. The Empress Dowager. "I believe, since our main source of livelihood depends on the Emperor's monthly stipend, it's necessary to care about our benefactor's mental health. Don't you agree, Empress?" As the final victor of the previous generation's palace intrigues, she quickly grasped everyone's lifeline. The Empress was the first to nod. "The Empress Dowager is right. Then I'll leave this matter to you. I humbly accept your command." The Empress Dowager was satisfied. She called a few concubines to play mahjong with her, while the others were instructed to write self-reflections. The meeting was adjourned. Once everyone had left, the Empress had the yoga mat put away, took a bath, burned incense, changed her clothes, and sat down in front of the dressing table. A maid smoothed her updo and brought over a hairpin with a phoenix taking flight. In the mirror, the renowned beauty of the nation gazed back. Xiaotsue couldn't help but compliment. "A woman beautifies herself for the one she loves." "Wrong," the Empress replied. "A woman beautifies herself for herself." Xiaotsue was puzzled. "What's the difference?" "A great deal of difference." The Empress, all dolled up, headed to the Hall of Mental Cultivation. Emperor Qi Yuan, Dugu Xian, had ascended the throne at 7 and taken full control at 15. She had married him when he was 17, and they had one son and one daughter, enduring countless trials and tribulations together for 15 years. The enduring love between the Emperor and Empress was the talk of Chang'an. The Hall of Mental Cultivation was quiet, with faint dragon incense lingering in the air. While Dugu Xian was reviewing memorials, he caught sight of someone peeking in at the door, the ruby-red gemstone on her hairpin glittering in the sunlight. The gem moved with its owner, hinting at her mischievousness and endearing charm. He put down his vermilion brush and gave a heavy cough. Caught, the person at the door showed no shame. Instead, she confidently strode to the imperial desk and gracefully bowed. "Greetings, Your Majesty." Dugu Xian noticed her empty hands. Recognizing this as the most insincere visit from the harem, she hadn't even brought any food. The Empress pretended not to understand his glance. She got straight to the point. "I come with a mission." Dugu Xian responded nonchalantly. "Worn down by the imperial stipend again?" "Your Majesty is wise." The wise emperor tossed a brush, which the Empress deftly caught, smiling. "Thank you, Your Majesty." The emperor was exasperated by her agility, but could only indulge her. He moved aside on the dragon chair, and as she sat down, she replaced the brush in the holder. Turning to him, she asked, "Tell me, my pillar, what's been bothering you lately? Let your virtuous wife share your burdens." Dugu Xian was tall and well-proportioned, making him naturally noticeable. And he wasn't just good-looking, he was exceptionally handsome. The Empress couldn't resist pinching his face. His skin was so good that even Xianfei wanted him to endorse her face masks, but each time, the Empress fiercely rejected the idea due to the low endorsement fees. Her hand slid to Dugu Xian's waist, giving it a squeeze, and she casually suggested, "You're at risk of gaining weight, Your Majesty. I've always reminded you to exercise. How about I get you a couple of custom hula hoops for your next birthday?" This remark successfully shut the Emperor up, leaving the Empress puzzled and returning in defeat. The Empress then called a small meeting with the entire harem, encouraging everyone to brainstorm ideas for next month's allowance. Sitting at the head of the table, the Empress reflected, could it be that I imagined him hula hooping in the Hall of Mental Cultivation and laughed too obviously, making him angry out of embarrassment? Liang Fei agreed. Most likely. Everyone knows our emperor is thin-skinned. Hey, Shigue Fei, could you pass me some sunflower seeds and dried fruits? Xianfei seized the opportunity. Empress, you should be mindful of your expressions. Laughing too much can cause wrinkles. I have a newly developed zombie mask. Would you like to try it? Since we're all so familiar, I'll give you a 20% discount and throw in a sample essence. Everyone was already immune to her sales pitches. The Empress turned to De Fei, who had been unusually silent, and asked, "Why are you so quiet today?" De Fei nonchalantly replied, "As long as I'm happy, why should I care if the Emperor is happy? He's a grown man. Can't he handle his emotions himself? How can one govern the country if they can't even manage their own household?" The others paused, realizing they had been persuaded. They promptly set aside thoughts of the Emperor, returning to the theme of the Emperor's mood is unimportant, my own mood is what matters, and began discussing whose palace to party in next. As the fashion pioneer of the harem, Xianfei examined De Fei's dress and commented, "Sister, how did you know this pattern is in vogue this year?" "I just visited the weaving bureau yesterday. They didn't have this fabric." "Where did you get it from? Could you send me the link later?" De Fei waved her hand grandly, "No problem." Only Shigue Fei continued to watch her idol, noticing the Empress still seemed uneasy. She approached and asked, "Sister, are you still worried about the Emperor?" The Empress sighed, "I'm worried about myself." After leaving the Hall of Mental Cultivation, I bribed Dashi, who is close to the Emperor, to find out why he's upset. Considering our Emperor's intelligence, I fear my days are numbered. In the Hall of Mental Cultivation, Dashi carefully observed the Emperor's expression while grinding ink and cautiously asked, "So, Your Majesty, why are you unhappy?" He recalled 3 days ago. It was the 15th. To ensure harmony between the Emperor and Empress, there had always been an unwritten rule in the Wei dynasty that the Emperor must spend the night in Cunning Palace on the 1st and 15th of each month. On the morning of the 16th, Dao Shi was waiting at the entrance of Cunning Palace. First, he saw the Empress come out, full of energy, greeting him cheerfully while holding a dumbbell in each hand, starting her daily morning run. Shortly after, he heard the Emperor inside calling out in a not-so-pleasant tone. It seemed that from that moment, the Emperor began to be unhappy. Dashi had a vague, uneasy suspicion. Sure enough, he heard Dugu Xian sigh and say dejectedly, "The Empress has both abs and a mermaid line, while I don't have any. I was outdone." Eventually, this information made its way back to the Empress. She laughed so hard in Cunning Palace that she developed a third ab.